get a doctorate in and be like Dr. Candice. And, you know, we're going to say to the world and the aliens come, you're the one they fly a helicopter to retrieve.
Oh,
you know,
yeah, absolutely. I want to be that chick.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Traci Harding and welcome to my channel. Welcome to another writer interview. In my writing space today, Candice Michelle Goodwin is going to be dropping in for a chat, and as she's a scientist, we'll be talking about all sciencey things and her books, Into Entropy, which are a series, and I'll let her tell you all about those.
Dr. Candice Michelle Goodwin was born in South Africa and studied her way to Australia, where she has reinvented herself several times over by obtaining qualifications in molecular and cellular biology, engineering, space technology, film and TV, and interior design. Candice is also an author, producer, screenwriter, fully qualified private investigator, scientific consultant, and a world traveller. So whether it's engineering, biohacking, or paranormal investigations, Candice has studied and consulted on it. As a business director of Rebel with a Cause Productions, her STEM initiatives bring equipment to schools and inspire students to pursue careers in STEM. Candice is also hosting a new podcast inspiring girls and women in particular to pursue STEM careers. In her film world capacity, Candice has produced and associate produced several productions, including Code 8 and the web series Deep 6. She's currently working on developing her Into Entropy book series into a TV series, whilst writing books number 3, 4, and 5.
Hi, Traci Harding here. Welcome to my channel. And as promised, I'm here with Candice Michelle Goodwin. And we are having the interview that we should have had at Oz Comic Con. Well, we did have at Oz Comic Con 5 months ago, but we completely screwed the sound. So we're here, and Candice has written a series called Into Entropy because Candice has a couple of degrees, but we'll talk about that in a second. But Candice wasn't born here in Australia, but she is an Australian citizen now. She was actually born in
Cape Town, South Africa, although I've been all over. So when we get to the degrees part, yeah, I did part of my degrees in the USA and in Italy, actually, and a little bit in China.
And what were the degrees?
So I've got a dual PhD in chemical engineering and applied science, but it's more to do with sort of infectious diseases and bacteria and how we cure diseases and how you mass produce treatments for diseases.
Or mass-produced diseases, even.
Yes,
like,
totally.
Like we're seeing at the moment, maybe.
Yeah.
So have you been following all that?
Yeah, I have, because in my book that will be coming out soon, Into Entropy Volume 3, there's a whole long discussion as to the threat that revolves around China, because they have 20% of the world's population, so if anything goes right or wrong, it influences the rest of the world, such as now what we've seen with the coronavirus outbreak or a number of other things.
Which is pretty damn scary.
Yeah.
So with those degrees, how did you end up being a novelist? Did you?
So I always wanted to do this. So growing up in South Africa, I was actually in the farmlands, and you were always told you're not leaving the farm, right? Like, this is just life. You're not going anywhere. Don't be a big dreamer. And I was like the little kid watching Tom Hanks movies and going, look at all the incredible, talented people he's working with. I would love to do this, and I want to tell stories. And it was film and TV specifically that I was after. So when I was 5, I sort of sat and I went, okay, I want to do that. But I'm also going to have to do something else to get me out of the country and into the first world.
Yeah.
And sort of science and engineering seemed to be the route to go because, you know, if you're Dr. So-and-so, you know, you can just get out somewhere where you're required, where your skill set's required. And then I knew I could go from there and pursue my passion.
And so you headed over to
Australia. So, yeah, a really strong science background, actually, and it was very rare for someone to switch between science and engineering.
Yeah, that is odd.
Yeah. So I was the first person that switched from a master's in science to a PhD in engineering in my university. And because I had none of the background in engineering, I literally had to do a master's degree the same time I was doing my PhD. which is like, it was craziness, but I knew what I was doing for this PhD and that I would actually get it. But also, when I was doing that, I ended up starting a relationship with the space technology industry. They launched the first space technology program in South Africa, and that led to a relationship with the Space Generation Advisory Council, which is global. And meeting people like Elon Musk and knowing people that are now astronauts at NASA and all of this cool stuff, because my science background in microbiology was in extremophiles and getting new species of bacteria from environments that were untapped by mankind, which meant you really did have to look at extreme environments, deserts, forests, deep sea.
Underwater,
That's it.
Space.
Yeah. So all these extreme environments on Earth give you an idea of what other planets would be like, basically. So naturally, it seemed like astrobiology is the way that I hit it. Like my PhD organism, for example, was a deep sea organism. It could eat copper. It could grow in pH 3 acid. Not normal stuff.
Yeah.
And I got to put it in a biological payload on a rocket too, and it survived that.
Wow.
So it's like all this cool stuff. It's just like not normal.
Awesome. And so, how did the books happen then?
Yeah, so came over to Australia after I did my PhD in engineering and had been working in South Africa on a startup company. At the time, there was a very special engineering visa to get into Australia, whereas now it's really difficult to get into various countries. Have had an interesting career in Australia. So my first job was to help build the biggest biological manufacturing facility in the Southern Hemisphere, that's in Brisbane. And that required my biology background, engineering, even like an interior design background that I have, and building this up. And you get a very unique skill set from doing that. And because this was products that gets injected into humans and you're designing the whole process, there's a big legal element to it, which is called validation engineering. So I happened to specialize in that, and it was super rare for a woman to specialize in that.
Yeah.
So I got to the point where I was doing freelance consulting. And at that point I went, okay, I now have the time to pursue my actual passion, which is writing, TV and film. So I could sustain myself with my day job, but also go do all of these other projects and these other things, because I was my own boss, basically, at that point.
Yeah.
And that's what's led to writing the book series, which is an idea that I actually had when I was 13. And I wrote the first half of book 1 in 2001, and it kind of like went on hold until 5 years ago, basically.
Yeah, and the technology would have just gone skyrocketed since then.
Yeah, because the structure of it is basically the same now if you read it. What's changed is things like some of the science has progressed drastically that I had to update that. Some's the same. But basic things like when I was writing this, we didn't have mobile phones. So like the characters had PAs that were taking messages, and they were in dangerous situations because they didn't get the message from the PA. And now you can just phone people and Google on your phone and do all of these things.
Or you can not get signal. That can always that can always be a problem,
Well,
especially here in Australia.
Yeah,
you know,
you're stuck in the forest, and like, how do you get out of the forest? Yeah.
The koala stole my phone.
Very real issues.
Yes, exactly. Very real issues. So, with writing, as in just in general, can you just sit down and write on a dime, or do you have like a specific time that you like to work, or way that you like to work?
I can actually write whenever I want to, if I want to.
Can you do it in noise?
Yes.
Yeah, can you?
Yeah, but this is more that I procrastinate during the day. This is the biggest problem. So I prefer to actually write at night because no one's bothering me. I also seem to have way more energy at night and more focus. During the day, I'll be procrastinating and playing on my phone and getting back to someone. So like, not much writing happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I need to, I can basically write anywhere.
Yeah. And your worlds, is there any of your worlds that you really like being in?
Oh, I love going to this world in the Anti-Entropy series because it's my world, like it's my show. So I work on a lot of other projects that are other people's projects, and I help them build their world. But mine is very, very real to me, and I can easily go to that place, and every character is their own person. So I can very clearly see how they're responding, and it's kind of like they can help me direct where the stories go because it's that clear.
Yeah. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how you actually got published.
Right.
How did you go through that process?
My books are very specific genre, and I spent a lot of time looking around for people that were doing sci-fi.
Right.
And came across these publishers that are in LA that specialize in exactly what it is that I'm doing and were really easy to work with. So no, you have to do this by a particular deadline. It was all on my time, and if I wanted to use my own illustrator, I could do that. So I could really direct things when I wanted released and all sorts of things. So I've tried to release each book alongside with another event that my production company takes care of. So the one year it was released when I was in New York, and it was really great because Joel McHale made fun of the book, and I was like, thank you. And then the other year it was released the same time we were doing round the world premieres for the movie Code 8. So it was really nice to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And this year I'm going to release the next one while I'm at San Diego Comic-Con, which I'm super, super excited about.
That's really awesome.
It's like the thing that I wanted for as long as I can remember, to go to San Diego Comic-Con. So that's finally happening. And then
Fantastic. So what was the name of the publishers?
they called Dizzy Emu Publishing, which is so ironic because they're in LA and we in Australia with emus, which are arguably dizzy. I don't know.
Dizzy Emu.
Yeah.
Dizzy Emu. There you go.
But yeah, it's a very, very specific genre, and it just works for me. So
fantastic. Yeah. So what's this new book? Well, you've got 2 out already, right?
Yep. Enter Entropy Volume 1 and 2 are out.
And number 3 is coming out, getting released at San Diego
Comic-Con, which is at the end of July.
And you also work with girls in STEM, don't you?
Yeah, so through all of these experiences and through also pitching TV shows in the factual space, what happened was a lot of people looked at me and they went, you've got a really, really interesting background in terms of having a STEM background but also doing creative work. How do I feel about tackling certain issues that revolve around women in STEM? So there's a few projects that we're doing, like I want to do a travel project and look at how women are treated in the different countries, like UK, Africa, Australia, and all of that. And also I would be driving a Mercedes van through all these territories, and because I'm a woman in STEM, I will fix the van if something goes wrong.
But that's right.
But yes, and then the next step from that was, hold on, like this is really inspirational, and Australia and a lot globally are suffering from having very few women in STEM, and there's very few girls deciding to pursue those STEM careers. So I've sort of gravitated towards advocacy work, looking at why do we have this problem? Like, why are they not pursuing STEM careers? Why are women not retained in these careers? And it's now resulting in a whole lot of cooperative programs with various organizations to try and inspire youth.
Excellent. Yay, well done. So what's next?
So I know that there's 5 books in the Enter Entropy series, and I don't plan on stopping the writing at any point. Like, I'm just going to keep going ahead.
Hold on. Before we go, so, Enter Entropy, give us a quick, what's it about?
Right, so you can see some of it on this t-shirt.
So we have DNA.
Book 1. Yeah, so Enter Entropy is about Dr. Lana Sennett, who's a molecular biologist, and she works on specific genetics at a university lab, and there's a little bit of an accident. It's not as cliched as like a Spider-Man accident.
It's not a Spider-Man accident.
Yeah, it's not the Hulk Spider-Man. But there is an accident, and she does get a genetic upgrade as a result. But the specific genetics she was looking at has to do with a bacterial 2-component system, which is a real system that single cells use to sense their environment. So the concept is, what if you put these sensory enhancement genes into a human? What would happen to our senses? And there's so much that our senses control, including response to hot and cold and pain and your strength and your ability to heal and all of these things. So it becomes really interesting what you can do with this character. And other than her work at the university, in book 1, she's a forensics consultant. So she becomes like this walking crime lab where you can like zoom in on things and you can hear things and all of this, but she has to keep it a secret.
Yeah.
Because she's just a real person trying to save herself and the people she loves. And it's sort of the burden.
We need
of
her at
carrying the
airports
secret.
right now.
The
She would be
chicks.
fully employed.
Yeah, someone who's very ill. Yeah, so it's really that story in book 1 of this 8 key characters. You get to learn about these characters and their relationship, and she gets to learn how to use her abilities, but she really is trying to keep it secret from everyone. And there's only one other person who's also a leading world scientist in particular areas that knows how to help her through this and how to control it.
Cool.
And yeah,
Ella.
it gets more exciting.
Yay. So, just in closing, I ask everyone, what's the meaning of life?
For me right now, I just want to be happy.
Yeah.
And interestingly, I've learned it's the small things in life, really like the basic things that make me happy, and I just want that.
Yeah. Like a good cup of tea.
Yeah.
Which is where we're going right now. So we're going to go and have some lunch, and I'm going to say thanks to Candice for coming. And
Thank you, Tracy.
you're welcome. See you next time. Bye.